Hey y'all, good to see you again here on Grassroots Gardening. I'm Ryan, and today we're going to cut up this very expensive plant behind me. This is a Monstera Thai Constellation. It'll be the first one that I've propagated, and I'm a little nervous because the nodes are super close together on it. So we're going to learn together on this one, but the more you know, the more you grow. This plant's probably about, I don't know, $1,000 plus plant. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves, and this one here is just now unfurling, and it's in a tight, looks like a cigar, but it should unfurl here in the next few days. Again, this is the first Thai, that's just what we call them for short, the first Thai that I've ever cut up. And the nodes, and so where the leaves come out along the stem, are very compact. Whereas the Albo, it's got legs for days. It's easy to get in there and cut. You know, make sure we're not cutting any buds off. But with this guy, they're just stacked on top of each other. So I'm just a little nervous cutting in between these nodes. And you know, I don't want to ruin a chance of an axillary bud being there and you know, having a growth point and me screwing it up and cutting it. So I was going to try to do the scalpel, but another characteristic of the Thai is that the stem or the main leader is has much more diameter than the albos. As a matter of fact, evidently who we ordered this one from had a massive Thai. That thing's probably got 1.5 inch caliper, and that's what we would consider a chunk cutting. So they just cut a big old chunk out of their plant that was probably going across the ground. They just cut it up, and then that point there where our plant has formed is your axillary bud. So if you can get in there and kind of take a look at that spot right there, which I'll hopefully be able to show you guys an example of one that has not been initiated or has not started growing yet. I'll be able to show you all that. So when they cut this node, put this in the ground, it initiated that axillary bud, and then it forms a whole entire new plant. And that's what our goal is today, propagating this Monstera, is to see how many we can get, how many axillary buds sections we can cut, because that's going to form an entire new plant if all goes well and if we're successful. Now we're going to try two different things. We're going to do water propagation, and then I'm also going to do sphagnum. Now traditionally I like water better. I've just had better success propagating Monsteras in water. We will add a little bit of Super Thrive to the water and rocks, and then that'll go on a heat mat that's kept at about 80 degrees. And that's been the real trick to getting these Monsteras to root, at least in my experience. But the Super Thrive I really think plays a key role in that. So I'll put a link to everything we use in the video in the description below, so you can just go down and click more info or something like that, and it pops up. We'll tell you guys all the materials that we used and all that good stuff. But instead of the scalpel that's not going to make it all the way through, I'm going to use my old Felcos and just sharpen them. So we're going to sterilize them with a little alcohol, just so we don't transfer any bacteria. I've already squirted some alcohol on the plant when y'all weren't looking. So we've got it as sterile as possible, just so we kind of reduce the chances of taking any pathogens into either the the sphagnum moss or the water. So let's go ahead and come in here, and I'm just going to start from the top cutting and probably work my way back. So let's see here if I can get in. So I think I'm going to cut right in between these two aerial roots here. This thing's so tight I barely can get my pinky in to show you guys where I'm going to cut. And a lot of the times the axillary buds are underneath the petioles, which is this part here. This is your leaf petiole that goes up to the actual leaf. And the other characteristics of Thai is this is a lot thicker and very much more rigid than an Albo. So the Albos, I can sometimes peel them back and look under, but these you just can't. So I'm just kind of take a leap of faith here and stick my Felcos in. Right. Let's see. I can kind of see an axillary bud under that petiole. So I think I'm going to go right there. Yeah, and there's no way we would have made it through with the scalpel. So we got a clean cut. Now it's still attached, but it's only attached by this aerial root, which has gone down into the soil and is trying to become a terrestrial root. You can see how brand new, and that's almost kind of like slimy because it's so fresh. But that will turn in, or would have turned into a terrestrial root, and it will, because once it goes into water, that will become our terrestrial root ball or root formation for the Thai that hopefully will come out of the axillary bud. But if the camera stays moving, they stay. So this is just going to be our top cut off the Thai. I probably could make another plant out of what I'm holding in my hand, but I can't see the axillary bud underneath this leaf petiole, and I don't want to risk screwing it up. So we're just going to have this monster Thai top cut. And so he's going to just go, I'm probably going to let him callus for about an hour, and then he'll go right into the jar of water, or add a few drops of Super Thrive and add a few rocks in there just to help give it weight, because this is pretty, I mean, that's a huge cutting right there. You know, it might not hurt it if I were to get rid of this leaf, just because what happens when you're doing cuttings, the more foliage you have, it transpires, you lose water from all that leaf surface. Matter of fact, on some cuttings we cut the leaves in half just to you have enough leaf to do photosynthesis, to give the plant energy to make new roots, but you don't have so much surface area to where it can kill it because it just transpires all of its water out. So we'll have to kind of keep a close eye on this one, make sure it goes under the mist. I think it'll be just fine in greenhouse conditions, but I wouldn't try this like, you know, in a house or home type condition. So that's a humongous Thai Constellation top cut right there. So my next cut, I want to make sure that we don't affect the axillary bud, which is down this football shaped light colored circle down here. That's where our growth point is. That's where our new plant is going to form on our next cutting. So we have to make sure that we don't cut that, but that we cut behind it. And so I'm going to have to come in here, and this petiole is really going to be in my way. All right, so I'm just going to start cutting and I'll cut some of this petiole, but that's okay as long as we don't cut the axillary bud. And hopefully I'm not, but I can't see because these nodes are so tight together. And we've got two aerial roots on this one. Whoa, I was really close. Almost screwed up. So we just came right. So this is the axillary bud right there, that football shaped thing. And I was right on the edge of it, but we will be fine, I know, because I didn't cut into it. That's where our new plant's going to come from, right there. And we will leave these aerial roots attached. And since this one's already growing in quite a bit of sphagnum, this one will be a good candidate to just go ahead and put in our pot full of sphagnum moss and let it just continue growing. This will have really good success. I feel pretty confident because look at the root system already. So this thing should hit the ground running. Put it in there and let those roots just continue to develop. You can see we have really nice white, let me set it down, really nice white new growth on the roots. So I got almost 100% confidence in this cutting here. Of course, nothing's 100%. Anything could happen, but he's got the best chance I think I've ever seen of a cutting that's going to make it. Okay, let's see here if we can find our next victim. All right, as I was trying to find my next node, I had to take this scalpel and cut some of the petiole in order to be able to fold it down just to see where my bud was. But now I can really see it plain as day right there underneath that leaf petiole. I'm going to take my Felcos and come in from the top on this one so that you guys can see, and hopefully I can still see. And I'm just going to push my blade down. Am I clear on that side of the bud? Can you tell?
Oh yeah, you are.
Alright, so I'm just going to squeeze my cutters, and I just made a shadow. Squeeze these cutters right through there. And we have another aerial root, which is good. And we'll just rip that right out of the pot. Knock him off a little bit so I don't get in too much trouble for making a mess. So we're up in our new office right now. And we came close to that one again too. Look. We might even nick the corner of it just a bit. So that'll be interesting to kind of see what it does, because I've actually never cut through one. But it's not bad, so I'm not super worried about it, but it'll be interesting just to see what it does. The only other thing I don't like about cutting so close to the axillary bud is because if we were to get rot, especially on this end, and we lose the bud, then the whole cutting's done. There's no hope for it. They will not grow out of a Monstera leaf. The growth has to come from the bud. So that would be my only concern, is getting root rot on this end of the cutting and then losing the whole cutting. But this one, since again, just like the last one, is in a lot of sphagnum already, we're going to put it right back into sphagnum and let those roots develop, and then hopefully we have a whole nother tie right here. So I think I'm going to, for the sake of learning and just my my personal stress level, I can't find another axillary bud just because I can't see it. I know there's one here, but the petioles and everything's just so squished together, it's really hard to see. So I'm going to rip this leaf off down at the petiole. Yeah, do whatever you need to do. You in there? Mm-hmm. We're going to rip it off right at the petiole and just kind of bend it back. And clear this dirt away. And I can't see anything. It's really hard to tell what's what. Because, like, I mean, technically, we should... Oh, I bet you that's it there. It's just not as pronounced.
The oval?
Yeah, the oval. So if you see that right there, that football shape, and it's got like a little dot right in the middle of it. That should be our growth point. Now, it's very possible that there's another one way down here underneath this first leaf, but I can't see hardly what I'm doing because it's so compact. So I think we're going to leave this girl as she is. She's got 1, 2, 3, 4 leaves. That's plenty. The pot is full of roots, so she should rebound really quickly and give us that new upshoot of growth. And then we'll either let her fully develop into more leaves and sell her as is, or we'll use her as a mother plant and we'll just continue to propagate off of this one to make more sellable Thai constellations. So there's no doubt, this is the first Thai that I've done, but there's no doubt in my mind that it's any different than the albos that we've done, because they're the same species and well, they're the same plant basically, just a different variety. So the water culture should work the same as well as the sphagnum. So right now we're going to go down into the greenhouse, and it's been a little while. We're going to take and throw these guys into either water or sphagnum. We'll show you how we do that, and then we're done. This is a huge top cut. Look at that thing. It's a monster. So we're going to put him in the water culture as we said before, and I'll have to go get some rocks in a little bit, but just for the sake of this video and show you guys how we do it. So he's just simply put down in the mason jar and make sure he's fully submerged. We'll probably fill it up a little bit more, but that's plenty to keep it alive and to generate root production. So what I'm going to do is take my Super Thrive here, and I literally buy this by the gallon. You don't have to buy a gallon. but this lasts me quite a long time. And in my opinion, this is one of the biggest secrets in propagation and just taking care of really any plant that's in stress. I learned this from a couple old timers. They used it religiously, and so I've had great success with it. So we're just going to put, in this mason jar is half full, I'll probably just put maybe 10 drops. And that's all we need. I'll squirt the rest back in there, and then when we do our next one, we'll just put another 10 drops. Now this is going to go on a heating mat. We have a custom heating mat that we can adjust the temperature. And it will put it at right at, I think it's 78 degrees. That'll keep the water the right temperature. It will make it, if you do use a heat mat, it will make it, what's the word I'm looking for, evaporate more quickly. So you have to really keep a close eye on adding water and making sure you don't dry your cutting out, because that could be the end of your cutting. So we check our stuff daily, but that's how you're going to do the water prop. And then as far as the sphagnum propagation goes, we're going to take some pre-moistened sphagnum, and I'm going to put the roots down in here first. Then I'm going to take some sphagnum and tuck them all around so we keep that root system nice and moist. And what I should have done first was find my grow point, which is going to be right there. And we're going to have to get a couple little sticks and support this thing. We could actually cut this leaf off and it would grow from right there, but we're not going to do that. What I'm going to do is support the leaf a little bit, and we'll have to prop it probably some more on the heating mat over there, or else it's going to fall over. But what I'm trying to do is have that axillary bud pointing up, because that's going to be our grow point. I obviously want it to grow as straight up as possible. So we're going to pack this down there nice and not crazy tight where we cut off all air circulation, but just, just tuck it in there, and that right there should be fine. And he'll go on the heat mat just like that. When that starts to grow and she gets a couple of leaves, then we'll support the leaf and kind of give it some direction. Try to keep it growing straight up. And there you have it, guys. Water propagation with Thai, and sphagnum moss propagation with the Thai Constellation Monstera. We'll keep you guys posted. Now would be a good time to hit the little bell down there, the notification bell, for any future videos, because this will be in videos to come. We'll show you if we're successful or not, hopefully the prior. And we'll just keep you guys posted, but we're always doing cool stuff here. We've got a lot more plants that I'm looking around that need propagating, so we'll just experiment. If you have any comments or questions, just put them in the comment box below, and we appreciate you guys. And remember, the more you know, the more you grow.